The Ethiopia story. Once again, that East African nation faces the risk of famine, similar to the one that killed 1 million people in 1984 and 85. Today, the Bush administration said it would send another 250,000 metric tons of food there. Brian Stewart of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation was in Ethiopia this spring. Here's his report.
Again, the wide path of another drought. The high roof of Africa, sun-blasted mountains, and cracked riverbeds. After some years of decent harvest, rains have failed, crops died. Some of the poorest people on earth are left with virtually nothing. 90% are bare subsistence farmers. In past droughts, they've had to sell off all they own. Now 11 million, 15% of the nation, are too destitute to make it without help. Simply put, food aid must rumble up these isolated roads for a year, or the death toll will again be immense.
This drought is fierce. There are 5 million more people at risk of famine than in '84, and the general level of health and poverty is even worse to begin with.
Ethiopia is a unique country with some core strengths in any crisis. Never really colonized, it is fiercely proud and profoundly religious, the second oldest Christian country on earth. This gives Ethiopia a strong sense of social cohesion that is striking to foreign aid workers like John Graham of Save the Children.
You come here and you see very strong families, very strong moral values. So Ethiopia, for example, is an incredibly poor place, but there's incredibly little crime.
Now both the dominant Christian Orthodox Church and Muslim leaders have united to call for national sharing. All here promise to help those in need. And Ethiopians are renowned for sharing whatever they have with extended families and poor neighbors.
When there is a crisis here, people begin to donate part of their salaries. You know, you'll have entire departments or organizations where they'll get together and say, we're going to give, 50% of our monthly salary into fighting against this drought.
Already across the north, there's a sharp rise in malnutrition cases showing up at clinics. Fortunately, this is part of an efficient famine early warning system. Past governments tried to hide famines. Now clinics like this quickly report when the average weight of children begins to drop. Other early warnings are field reports by the Relief Society of Tigray, called REST. Drought and food shortages are checked daily by traveling experts like Tsagai Esefa.
My experience, the drought is so bad that it resembles or it is equal to the 84-85 situation, except that the response mechanism is good now. The drought itself is equivalent to that of 84-85. People have produced nothing.
But what is going to happen if the world doesn't respond? What then?
Well, the need is enormous. If the response is very low, well, the thing will be very bad, extremely bad. We will see people dying. We will see people moving here and there. We will see a lot of beggars in the cities. The rural population will flood into the cities just for search of anything else it could get.
And this is exactly what Ethiopia must now prevent: the mass movement of the starving to overcrowded food aid camps. Many, too famished, simply died on the way. Others succumbed to diseases in the squalid camps. Tens of thousands, forced down to the unfamiliar tropical south, died of malaria. Here, mass movement equals mass death. So today, relief workers gather the hungry where they are. Listen to them. find out their needs, bring food before panic movement sets in. This gathering is another part of the early warning system. We find out many are close to the edge.
We cannot get anything from the land now. In 1984 we got a little, but now it is very bad.
During 1984, we left our land and our home. We were forced to leave our village and migrate. Now we are here. Even under difficult times, we have not left our home.
Another key advantage now is that the long years of civil war and the more recent conflict with Eritrea have finally ended. Ethiopia's fragile democracy is still open. Prime Minister Meles Zenawi, who led the uprising against the old dictatorship, does not hide grim facts.
These are anxious moments for all of us here. The risks are there for everyone to see. Anything between 11 to 14 million people are facing food shortages. We do not yet have the resources in our hands to be sure that we will manage in the coming months. We have political power to do something about it. So however difficult things might be, desperation and despair is not something that enters my mind.
The government is racing food reserves into the countryside. What's frightening is Ethiopia will need 1.5 million tons of food from the world.
Hour after hour, day after day, the food is pouring out to go to the countryside, and the sheds are emptying one after the other. If sheds like this ever completely empty, you will have mass starvation.
And this is a nation that does not waste any food. Almost every family here lost members in that famine. Even a break in the steady flow of supply trucks carrying food to the countryside could trigger the start of another migration. And it's here where fear is monitored. Weekly gatherings, which locals call rumor markets. It's where peasant farmers meet every week to trade or sell what's left of their sheep and goats. Ethiopians hate having to ask for food. A big problem is many won't ask until they're too weak to go on. So they're now encouraged to take some aid before it's too late. Opposition leaders like Bayan Petros express a national anger at Ethiopia's constant weakness.
Because we Ethiopians feel we are competent, and we have proven that competence is no problem, okay? And with that competence and resourcefulness, we are embarrassed. It's embarrassing to always talk about famine and go around, beg for food. And we're really embarrassed about not being able to feed ourselves.
At the Orthodox service of Epiphany, priests bless holy water, which they will spray on the vast congregation. It is also a prayer for rains to return and a call to hope.
And in recent weeks, since that report was completed, there has been some rain in Ethiopia, but more than 12.6 million Ethiopians still need food aid.